Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here. I have another exciting video for everybody, and this video is called Working with the Clarity Effect. So this is a bit of an addition relating to one of my previous videos that is all about the BCR and TC technique all in one. Now this is actually a very, very important step because there are some people who have been doing the BCR technique, the TC technique, and they start to do the work and there's a lot of progress happening. But basically the problem is that if we have an example, let's call this example person Bob, all right? So Bob is doing the BCR and he's doing the TC technique. The first thing that he does is he works on breath work, calmness, positive reinforcement. So he starts bringing a lot of love energy into himself, but this conflict that he's going through is a pretty heavy emotional conflict. He does feel that there is some feelings of anger and sadness contained in this situation, this conflict that he's going through. So he does his best, he tries his absolute best to put a lot of love energy into himself. And it starts to improve. He starts to bring in a lot of love energy, he starts to focus on the positive, he starts to reinforce himself, but it's like here's a big spike of the love energy and it's about here. But in actuality, it has the potential to go all the way up here. But he doesn't feel like he's able to go all the way up here, right? If this is the summit, he's maybe able to go to about here, maybe halfway at best. Well, why is this? This is the BCR technique. This is breath work, this is calmness, this is positive reinforcement. And he feels he's addressed the situation. It is about anger, it is about sadness. But he's not able to get to the top of the summit. He's not able to get to that top of the mountain here, relating to love energy. And there's a reason for that. It's because the conflict that you're dealing with is still something that only goes into the surface of yourself. So what that means is that you look at anger and you look at sadness as that's a combination to the conflict, but you're not going deep enough, which means you have a lack of clarity regarding the conflict. So the emotional conflict here does not have enough clarity to bring you all the way up to the top of the mountain. You still feel like you're struggling. So this is kind of where you're taking your notebook, you're taking a notepad, you're taking a piece of paper, and you're going into a little bit more of an exploration because you worked with the anger and the sadness. You're starting to feel a little bit better. There's some improvement for sure, but you haven't gone all the way, okay? And this is again something that I've been noticing with a few people. Some people have been able to hit their conflict, some people have been able to deal with it, and they've been able to go to the top of the mountain relating to love energy. That's where we want to be. We want to be at the summit relating to love energy. If something is blocking us and preventing us from going all the way to the summit, then there's a conflict that's brewing that we have not been able to get clarity on. So what we are looking to do is we are attempting to obtain the clarity effect, okay? We want a clarity effect relating to the emotional conflict, relating to the trauma. Okay? And the important way of working with a trauma is not really to see the work that you are doing as shadow work, because there are times where I've talked to many people and in the past I've said, well, you know, it's going to involve some shadow work, like, I don't want to do shadow work, Brad, please, I don't want to do shadow work, right? As soon as we hear those two words, shadow work, we get depressed, our energy starts to deplete itself. We feel like we hit rock bottom. This is why I don't use that term anymore. Okay? That's why I don't use it. Now, there's a lot of people within the spiritual community, New Age community, even psychologists that may even utilize the term of working with the shadow. No, I don't see it that way anymore. Okay? Even when we look at the word trauma, that's still pretty harsh as well too. What I basically say is that, well, what happens if you cut yourself? If there's a deep cut here, are you going to be angry at yourself for the next few hours, complaining and arguing and just being so frustrated that you have a laceration on your arm? Or are you going to go ahead and take care of it? Which means we are doing inner mending. So inner work or inner mending. Okay? So we're healing ourselves. We are doing inner mending. We are doing inner repair. Right? It does not have to be this particular term relating to shadow work. We look at a trauma. Rather than a trauma, we can simply see it as a wound. It's a wound. You just have an emotional wound, that's all. It's like when you cut your arm, right? You're not spending so many hours complaining and arguing and getting frustrated that you've cut your arm. No, you're going to take out the bandage. You're going to clean the wound. You're going to bandage it up. You're going to meditate on it. You're going to start laughing at that wound because now that's going to clear out a lot of emotional debris. Right? I start smiling at it. I start chuckling. I start laughing. And I'm feeling like there's this big happy face that's coming there, and within a matter of seconds to minutes, that pain that was once really intense now starts to dissolve. It starts to steady itself out. So the first thing I do is I just start taking deep breaths, and I start to get that pain level into a tolerable threshold, and I start to look upon that wound, and I start to smile. I just tell myself, smile. Just smile. Now you start to chuckle a little bit. It's turning into a giggle. And now it's turning into a laugh. You're doing that for maybe about a minute. And then within a few seconds to a few minutes later, that pain is practically gone. That's all we're doing. We're mending a wound. Okay? So wounds happen through the physical, through the emotional, through the mental bodies. Okay? All three bodies have wounds. And that's all this is. These are lacerations. These are wounds, and this is inner mending that we are doing for these two bodies. Okay? The emotional and the mental body. The physical body is just the reciprocal body that receives that effect of the emotional and mental body getting repaired. So the physical body becomes a reciprocal effect relating to us working with the subtle bodies. Okay? It's a reciprocal receptacle pertaining to how we are healing the subtle bodies. So we're going into now this clarity effect. So screw this. Screw shadow work. All right? The hell with it. What we're doing instead is we are just tending to wounds. We are just doing inner mending. All right? As we are going into inner mending, we now start to look at Bob here, and he says, okay, I've had an emotional conflict regarding anger and sadness. I'm going to tell Bob, well, before you get into the TC technique, right? Maybe you did the BCR technique this morning, and that's great. But what I'd like you to do is I want you just to take out a notepad, and I want you just to trace, okay? I want you to trace this anger in this sadness. Do you remember about when this happened? Yeah, I've had it for about 4 or 5 weeks. Okay. Do you have a familiarity about how this happened? Yeah, it was something at work, and I was getting mad at somebody. Okay. Do you remember why it happened? Okay. The when, the how, the why. This is part of the clarity effect. Okay. When this happened a few weeks ago. How this happened, it was at my work, and I was getting angry. Why was I getting angry? Somebody was supposed to do something for me, they dropped the ball, and I got in trouble with it. There we go. So you're angry and you're sad. You're sad because you trusted this person and he disappointed you. You're angry because you got in trouble and you feel that you had to take the blame because this person you trusted was not able to do the work. He dropped the ball and now the boss got mad at you. You almost lost your job. All right, so that's clarity. We understand the when, we understand the how, we understand the why, right? Maybe in some point, it may represent the who or the where, okay? So we just asked the 5 basics. The when, the how, the why, the who, the where. All right? As we do that, we're now looking into a clarity effect. So if we are not able to fully identify a trauma, if we are not able to fully identify a wound, we go into the 5 basic probing questions because we have to dig a little bit deeper, right? We know we're angry about something, but maybe we can't put our finger on it. Maybe there's been a couple things that have happened, right? So I'm basically going to look at the strongest first, okay? If I'm angry about 3 different things here, I want to look at the strongest of those 3 first. So I got to do a little bit of digging. I got to look at those and say, what am I really angry about? Something about work, something about putting some faith into this guy, putting trust into this guy to take care of an assignment that he was tasked to do. He didn't do it. He dropped the ball. The boss got mad at me. I nearly lost my job. I was angry. I was sad. Okay? Great. So now I would tell Bob, now that you have that clarity about this person at work that dropped the ball, who you felt you lost trust in and you almost lost your job, are you now feeling that you have clarity about why you are angry and sad the most? Absolutely. I remember now. Great. So now we do the BCR technique again. We bring ourselves into love energy. And now Bob, this time, is able to go to the summit. He's able to go right to the top of the mountain because he is no longer in a state of confusion. He is no longer at that halfway point relating to climbing the mountain. He now recalls why he had a lot of anger, why he had a lot of sadness. He was able to understand the when, the how, the why, the who, the where. He was able to write that down. I remember the entire situation now. I have clarity on this. Great. Now that you have clarity, BCR, breath work, calmness, reinforcement. So now you start to bring your love energy up, and now that you have clarity about that whole situation, yes, I figured it out because I used the clarity effect. Okay? The clarity effect simply is this. It's knowing that you have not been able to go to the top of the mountain relating to love energy. So what you're doing is you're doing the 5 probes. It's just what I refer to them as. Okay? The 5 probes. The who, what, where, when, why. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. I should say the 6 probes. Who, what, where, when, why, how, etc. And so you are asking those questions. Okay, how did this happen? Okay, when did this happen? Where did this happen? Okay, who, what, where, who, what, okay. What happened? That's the 6th one. Okay, so the 6 probes. Who, what, where, when, why, how. And so you do the 6 probes based upon the situation. You fill them out in the best way that you can when you're writing it down, saying I have a conflict here that I am not able to get clarity on. Okay, who, what, where, when, why, how. And you just do what you can to remember that in the best way that you need to. Maybe you need to go into meditation as well too. And you're just basically getting your own personal guidance to get clarity on why you're feeling angry, sad, and or fearful. Okay? Once you have that clarity, it's like a bolt of lightning that strikes you in a very positive way and saying, I get it now. I realize why I was so upset. And now I have the clarity effect. So now that I have the clarity effect coming together, this is going to be amazing when I do it. When I do the BCR technique, I go right to the summit. I'm right at the highest level. I got so much love flowing through me. Now I go into the TC technique. I go into trigger clearing. I catch that trigger, the anger, the sadness, relating to that guy at work that dropped the ball, who I felt I put my trust into, and I got in trouble with my boss. But hey, I'm still doing my work. I'm still doing what I love. I'm still alive. I still have so many wonderful, positive things that I can list down because I've created a list of all of my positive things, of all the wonderful things that make me feel good. I'm able to write that down. I'm able to use that list, and I still feel great. Great. Does your love energy outweigh the energy of the trigger? Yes, it does. Are you ready to clear this trigger now? Yes, I am. Go ahead and clear it. So now you start clearing it. It starts getting smaller. It starts turning into liquid, starts dissolving, starts vaporizing. And now you feel great. Now you feel amazing because you use the clarity effect. So working with the clarity effect is simply the idea of us just sitting down and just digging a little bit deeper. It's like if I was to talk about the clarity effect, here's a shovel. Okay, maybe it's a snow shovel. But you're digging deep, you're going into the soil a little more, and you're digging a little bit more. I need a little bit more information about this anger, about this sadness, about this fear. And I'm just doing my inner mending. I'm just mending this wound, that's all. If I get a cut, I take care of the cut. I don't complain about it. I don't say this is something regarding a past life. I don't say this is something to do with Egypt, something to do with Atlantis. This is something to do with me and the Pleiades, and maybe I got a paper cut one time. Who cares? You're not concerned about that type of drama, okay? The only thing that we're doing here with who, what, where, when, why, how is just getting basic details, okay? We're not going off into story. So there's this guy named Jeff, and he's a dork, and and I put my trust into this dorky guy, and he was always so lazy, and blah, 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 and we get trailed off into such a deep story that we forget what we're even doing, okay? You're not focusing on the nitty-gritty of the melodramatic story. You're just getting the basics down, okay? These are basic probes. Who, what, where, when, how, why. Okay, when did this happen? 4 or 5 weeks ago. How? I was assigned a task. I gave it to another person who I trusted at the time. Why? Well, I felt that he was worth giving this assignment to at the time. He was showing some good work ethic in the past. Okay. Who? His name was Jeff. Where did this happen? At work. What happened? Situation with the boss. He dropped the ball. I got blamed. Great. Very simple explanations. Okay? Maybe 1 or 2 sentences. And that's it. We don't need to go past the 2-sentence mark. Okay? We're just getting the very basic details so that it triggers us and says, okay, well, this is it. I realize now why I've been angry, why I've been sad. I've now hit clarity. I have the clarity effect. And now that I have the clarity effect, BCR and TC technique are going to be amazing to do. Because now I have clarity about what I need to clear away. Sure, I still have to reinforce myself with positive, loving, happy energy. I need to put all that energy into myself. And then I start doing the TC technique, and I start clearing this away because my love energy now can hit the summit. Because I know what I'm battling. Okay? So if you are ever stuck doing the BCR TC technique because you're trying to put love energy into yourself and you're only going maybe halfway, maybe a quarter of the way, maybe at best 3/4 of the way up the mountain, you want to work with the clarity effect. Okay, you want the 6 question probes just to give you basic details, 1 or 2 sentences per question about what was happening. If you're still not sure, meditate on it, all right? You want to meditate on it. You want to just basically go into a quiet space. You want to have clarity. Ask spirit, ask your entourage to come in and give you clarity. Why am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling afraid? Why am I feeling a combination of all those 3, perhaps? And once you have that clarity, you now have developed yourself to be able to completely mend this conflict. You're able to do your inner mending now. You're able to do wound work, all right, rather than the shadow, okay? Because I know When I've said those two words, shadow work, to a person, like, oh my God, no, I don't want to do shadow work, Brad. Oh God, I hate it. I hate doing shadow work, right? Because it's basically telling yourself that you're flawed, right? I'm trying to convince you guys you're not flawed. You're not flawed at all. When you basically have a cut across your arm, are you flawed? No. You have a wound there. And now you're able to mend it back into good health. You have challenges. You don't have flaws. You are a perfect soul. You are a perfect being. And it's just this fog that you have put around yourself to make it feel like you're miserable, you're in despair, you're desperate, you're depressed, you're angry, you're aggressive, whatever else it may be. Okay? It's this fog that you put around yourself. And I am telling you, you guys are perfect. Right? Because that's what clarity is. Clarity is perfection. Okay? So when we have clarity, we have a perfect understanding about what we're going through that represents this emotional conflict, this trauma, this wound. And now we're able to take care of it. We are able to meet the challenge. We're able to look at that laceration, and we're now able to mend the wound, to make it better. And then again, realize our perfection. We've been perfect the whole time, right? We're just getting out of these ruts, these emotional conflicts, these mental conflicts of us telling ourselves we're not perfect, we're limited, we're conditioned. Yes, that's all it is. It's the fog that surrounds you. Your soul is perfect. It was created out of perfection. Your beingness is perfect. It is God, right? So you are moving out of this illusion to feel that you are impaired, that you are imperfect, that you are conditioned, that you are limited. And I'm saying to you, you're not. When you come into true clarity of yourself, you enter perfection. You move past the mind. You move past the body. You come into stillness. You come into this moment of sweet surrender. And everything's available to you, right? This is the idea of becoming one with infinite intelligence and intelligent infinity. This is about being one with pure consciousness. This is no longer looking at your body as a lower self. And then, yes, I have a higher self here. This is nothing but division. Okay? We don't even really want to play with this, right? A person has the ability to take all of their layers and combine them together by bringing in clarity and knowing that they are perfect. Okay? I'm telling this to you guys because that's who you truly are. When I look at you guys, you're perfection. You're a soul. As a soul, you're perfect. You come into this physical body and we are deluded into thinking that we're limited, we're conditioned, we're imperfect, we're just covered with shadows, we're covered with darkness, and we're hideous. That's a lie. Okay? That's the idea of the illusion. Okay? The illusion is telling you, oh yeah, here's your lower self. Your lower self is really, really stupid. But here's your higher self. Your higher self is really, really brilliant. Okay? We want to merge that, right? Rather than looking at an onion and peeling off the layers of it, why not see the entirety of the onion? Rather than having to see yourself as layers and say, oh yeah, there's parts of me over here that's really, really good, and there's parts over here that feel really, really horrible. Well, rather than constantly compartmentalizing yourself, acting like you're nothing more than a dresser drawer, thinking that you have compartments here, right, little cabinets, and you feel you have to open up those cabinets. Oh yeah, if I open up this cabinet, then this is going to fix me. And no. You want to see yourself as the entire thing, rather than putting yourself into compartments, putting yourself into dresser drawers, and thinking that you just have little compartments here and there and there, and if I fix up the compartments, then that's going to take care of it. No. Every bit of work that you do upon yourself affects you through the whole, the entirety of your being. It's a spider's web. Okay? So this is why we do not concern ourselves with the idea of basically having to go right up to the higher self because our lower self sucks. Right? That's distortion. That's an illusion. And that's garbage. right? You want to bring the two together. You want to merge this consciousness. You want to merge your higher levels together with your lower levels, which means you have no levels. You're not looking at yourself as some third dimensional version of yourself, or fourth dimensional version of yourself, or fifth dimensional version, or fourth density, or fifth density, or sixth density. Any of that stuff. You are seeing yourself in the beautiful essence of your perfection through clarity, right? We all have this, right? We can look into the aspect of our clarity and we can resolve all of our matters by looking into the clarity of the wound. That's all this is. This is just an emotional wound. Maybe there's some belief systems as well too. Those are some mental wounds. Maybe there's some physical harm upon the body. Those are some physical wounds. We're just wounded. And all we're doing is mending it. We're nurturing ourselves. We're taking good care of ourselves. We're nourishing ourselves back to health. That doesn't sound scary at all. I'm more than happy to nurture myself back to health, to nourish myself back into health, to mend these wounds so that I can be healthy again. I'm not looking at some shadow and thinking that I have some sort of horrible demon attached to me, or some horrible poltergeist, or some really evil essence attached to me, right? Because that's not the idea. When you have been traumatized, you are not in some type of quote-unquote negative space, right? There's a version of you that's simply huddled into a corner that has been wounded. And all he or she has been doing is been reaching out their arms and saying, please come to me. Please don't ignore me anymore. All I want is for you to come here and to embrace me, tell me that you love me, and let's merge back together as one. That's you merging and harmonizing your levels back together, right? So you're no longer seeing things as a dresser drawer. You're no longer seeing the higher self or the higher self or anything of that nature. It's merging, it's converging together because now you're bringing in clarity. The clarity effect is now giving you that complete and total realization that you're perfect. You are perfect. You cannot prove to anybody else that you're perfect, but when I look at you, you're perfect because I see a soul, right? On a human level, yeah, we may fumble, we may trip over our own feet, we may get bumps and bruises, bumps on the noggin here and there, but are we a human being or are we a soul? Are we a eternal being? Are we infinite? We certainly are. And that's what we are looking at ourselves as, rather than looking at a version of ourselves that's feeble, that's clumsy, that keeps tripping over their own feet. If all you keep seeing yourself in as a body, then you're buying into the illusion. If all you're seeing yourself as a mind, you're buying into the illusion. We want to bring the silver lining to the body, to the mind, to the heart, to the soul, to the spirit. The silver lining comes together. The silver lining happens through the clarity effect. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll speak to you again in another perspective of the now. Take care. Thank you very much for checking out my channel. Below you'll see my links to social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also go to healingcodecards.com, pick up your own Healing Code Cards body deck, and of course check out my website at newearthteachings.com. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next video.